Let's talk now about normalization. One of the most important and relevant concepts that we've talked about during the current administration is the realization that things that are not normal are being normalized and hyper normalized. Now, some of this comes from numbness. Humans adapt and things become, quote, normal very quickly. Even things we would not imagine would become normal. Part of it is the Trump administration working to normalize, for example, corruption, the way Trump insults people, the way Trump puts his family and friends in positions of power and privilege through his presidency, Trump's violations regularly of the emoluments clause, the weekly or sometimes almost daily scandals. With all of it, we have to work hard not to become numb and desensitized to the insanity. But also, the Trump administration wants to make these things normal. And the truth is, it works in part because humans adapt incredibly well and very quickly, and outrageous situations become normal seeming or normal feeling. Any one of Trump's scandals from just the last week alone would have been months of coverage if Barack Obama were president. Trump's Justice Department saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to prosecute Michael Flynn, who already pleaded guilty, by the way. That would have been an insane scandal during the Obama administration. Trump's press secretary lying in an unhinged way and cutting short briefings, holding 20-minute briefings that start 40 minutes late. That would have been 3 months on Fox News about the lack of transparency and the constant dishonesty of an administration. Trump getting caught, as I told you 10 minutes ago, essentially throwing out or suppressing the CDC's actual reopening guidelines. There are others. Any one of those would have been a month-long scandal for Barack Obama, but they are blips for Donald Trump. But the real normalization that is being planned is make the coronavirus deaths normal and frame it as we're back in business. We're reopening. Everything's okay. We have gotten past the peak and things are good now. And the Trump administration has been hinting at this for a long time with their entire, we never shut down because of the flu stuff. The cure can't be worse than the disease. We're past the peak. We've handled it well. Things are improving. The plan has been for a while now. Just don't talk about the virus itself anymore. Talk about reopening, talk about businesses, talk about CEOs, talk about how we have ventilators coming. After the bleach injection fiasco, they essentially stopped the normal press briefings and replaced them with propaganda events like a CEO roundtable, a day of prayer at the White House. Later today, or maybe earlier today, if you're listening in the evening or tomorrow, Trump is finally doing a press briefing, but it will be to make a testing related announcement. No doubt more testing propaganda. And now again, they are talking about car crash deaths, cancer deaths, suicide, all things that, of course, are not highly contagious and are not communicable. It is coordinated. You've got Republican senators using it. Fox News recently put up an image that compares heart disease and cancer deaths to those from coronavirus. And meanwhile, the deaths keep climbing. We've now passed the 80,000 death mark. Remember, Trump was saying for a month or longer, we're going to have 60,000. Then when it was clear we would have more, he said we could have 70 to 80. Now he's talking about 90 to 100. Most models now are talking about 130,000 during wave one. So the plan that now is the one being put in place by this administration is just pretend everything's fine. They've failed. You look at other countries, you look at Italy, Spain, Germany, France, others, their curves actually make sense in the context of dealing with the issue. And Trump has failed. Trump has failed, so they are not going to talk about it. They will make it the status quo. Just like, listen, people die in car accidents, people die of coronavirus. Could this work? It certainly can work for a while. The problem is that ignoring the virus and the deaths leads to more of it because people spread the disease. Trump's calculating that ignoring it and inviting CEOs to the White House is going to get him reelected in November. News channels presumably will continue reporting the death numbers, and Trump can suppress it as much as he wants. Eventually, it's going to catch up with him. Eventually, as other countries open their borders to countries that have this under control, but they keep their borders closed to the United States, Americans are going to realize, I think, something will be wrong when Canadians are allowed to fly to Germany and Brits can fly to Japan, but Americans aren't allowed to fly anywhere. You would imagine that that will eventually have an impact. And by the way, we still aren't doing enough testing. We are now getting to 300,000 tests per day. It's taken more than 2 months to get there. We need to be at 500,000 a day as a minimum, en route to 1 million a day or 2 million. We are just now approaching 300,000 tests a day. Even the simpler things they're not doing. And so this is the new strategy. It's going to be up to us to decide whether we fall for it, whether we allow it, essentially. Because even though we know that car crashes and coronavirus deaths are not the same thing, it takes a lot of work not to start to become numb to many of these numbers. And of course, everybody who is directly affected by the virus is not going to become numb to the numbers. But a lot of people are just in fantasy land. They don't know anyone who's died from the virus. And unfortunately, for a lot of these right wingers, until it affects them personally, it's just not real. They just don't care. It's going to be up to you and to me and to everybody else to decide, do we allow this to become the norm? Or do we say this has been an abject failure and this administration must be removed 5.5 months from now? That's how far away we are at this point, 5.5 months. Let me know what you predict. I'm on Twitter at @dpakman. We'll take a quick break and be back right after this. If you love feeding your intellectual curiosity, but you're always struggling to find the time, check out one of my all-time favorite apps called Blinkist. Blinkist lets you consume an entire book on your way home from work. They take thousands of popular nonfiction books, condense each one into text or audio that you can get through in just 15 minutes, and you get all of the important core ideas and information from that book. It's perfect if you don't have enough time to do all the reading you want to do, or if you just want to sample a book before you buy the entire thing. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way, and it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month, and you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video.